Hi guys, my name is Hossein Yousefi, and in this video we want to talk about fail2ban. Actually, it's a Linux service that is based on Python, and it scans our log files and detects patterns which correspond to possible break-in attempts, and then perform other actions that we can specify. So, what's the problem? Why we should use that service in our servers? Probably you have faced a situation that your SSH server was under attack and one people or others brute force and try to break in your server, or with other same services that use user password like postfix, FTP, or if you have VoIP server. So what should you do in this situation? We can ban their IPs manually, and always you should scan logs and see if there is a malicious sign or other things. However, this is not the way we ban their IPs, because it takes ages and there are several servers and it just wastes time. So we use fail2ban service in order to scan log files and ban IPs that show the malicious signs, too many password failures, or seeking for exploits. Generally, fail2ban is used to update firewall rules to reject the IP addresses for a specified amount of time, although any arbitrary other action could also be configured. There are default filters for fail2ban you can use or write by your own. There is a point that you can use only fail2ban to protect services that require username and password authentication. For example, you can protect ping with fail2ban. There are other ways. Okay, first of all, let's see how to install fail2ban on our server. There is two ways. You can use from source or the package manager, which I recommend to use this. There is a GitHub repository for fail2ban.git, and you can get it, extract the files and run setup.py install and copy required files to the right location, and then you should manage your logs, fail2ban logs, with writing a log rotate script, which is really easy. It's just about some lines which weekly rotate your fail2ban log, which is here. It store here, and if there isn't, okay, and then compress it, and after it execute this command. But with the package manager, you can easily install it, apt install fail2ban or yum install fail2ban, and you should better have Python with version 2.6 or more, because there are some bugs in last versions. Okay, let's get deeper in the fail2ban service. Before we start with the usage of different features, I want to explain what's happened to a request when it comes to your server, for example, an SSH request. Okay. I'm not good with painting actually, so that's it. There's a user and he wants to connect your server through the SSH. Actually, he sent his request, and then SSHD logs that request. You know, when you SSH to a server, you should input your username and password, and all of the process logged in the log files, which are in Verilog secure in CentOS, Verilog auth.log, I think, in Ubuntu. So then fail2ban always there's a jail for fail2ban for different services. For example, for SSHD, for postfix, for squid or other thing, there's a jail that specify your log files, maximum retry, and banning time, and other different options that we talk about it later. For every jail, there should be a filters that match the failure attempts. For example, let's see this in the log files. It's a CentOS Verilog secure. Oh, say there is nothing to show, but here is some. Oh yes. Okay, for example, let us find some. Here you can see in our SSH there's a line that shows us accepted password for root from a host. Or if we fail to write the correct password, there would be a line with failed password for root from anything. For example, if we want to try, we can use SSH root @ my server's IP, and then I just fill it blank. And then when we see there is a line that shows us failed password for root from a host. So fail2ban filters in fail2ban watch this file and try to compare each line with their regex that is written by us or draw as a default. So if the lines match with that regex, a line of regex, then it's completed, the sign is completed, and its attack could be an attack or brute force attack or other things. And the IP should be banned with IP tables, firewall-D, or other things. So that's the whole thing. Let's look at some terms. As we said, our filter defines regular expressions which must match a pattern, and there's action, and action defines several commands which are executed at different moments. And there's a jail. It's combination of one filter and one or several actions. We can have several jails at the same time with fail2ban, and there is no problem. Let me show you. There is an IP table. There is action. Actually, it's an action which happen, or fail2ban, or we can define other actions that ban the IP and send us an email message. So there are two commands, which is fail2ban client and fail2ban server, which are really useful, and we talk about it. In the next slide, we have files that are related to fail2ban. It's good to know that every .conf file can be overridden with a file named .local. And fail2ban.conf, there's a file in /etc fail2ban.conf contains URL settings for the fail2ban server daemon. Actually, there are in /etc fail2ban and fail2ban.conf or jail.conf or filter.jail.d action.d. Jail.conf contains our jails. Filter.d, there are different filters for different services in order to monitor our log files. There are different actions for firewall, IP table, sending mail, and etc. I want to describe a jail option, but before it, let's go and install the fail2ban service, and then we get back to it. Okay, as our our server is sent us, we can install it with just yum. Well, my internet connection is really poor. Okay, it finished. Let's check the files. /etc fail2ban, there are different files, fail2ban.d, fail2ban.conf, jail.conf, and every file can be overwritten by something .local, for example jail.local, which is preferred. In action.d, you can see send mail, NF tables, IP tables, SMTP, firewall.d, or other things. So let's go to fail2ban. Let's see our fail2ban.conf. It's about a log file, log rotate, and socket, PID file, database file uses SQLite, and such other thing that we don't change it. And if we see a jail, there's a jail.conf. The important thing, I just demonstrate the important things that are highly beneficial to us. There is a ban time, is the number of seconds that the host is banned after trying, for example, 5 times. Or fine time, a host is banned if it has generated a maximum retire during the last fine time. For example, during 10 minutes, if you try more than 5 and all of them were failed, you ban for 10 minutes. And then there is a backend which used to file modification. There are several options: systemd, pooling, auto gumming, and pi-notify. If you choose auto, it try to use pi-notify, gumming, or pooling at the end. Actually, backend is related to your log files in order to check them. So other important parameter is enable. These are for default, as you can see here at the top here. There are different sections in our jail.com. For example, includes, defaults, and jail. In the default, we have enabled, which show that jail will be enabled and log files will get monitored for change. So you can specify false if you don't want to your services log file being monitored. And there are filters and actions. You can send mail to the destination, and the sender should specify it, and your MTA, which protocol you use, and ban action. It could be IP tables, firewall D, and we'll talk about it later. And there are different actions. For example, you can use ban action and then send mail for a report or other things. And there are jails. For example, you can see SSHD jails, which you can specify their ports, their log path, and their backend. In this case, there's a default, and it uses your systemd as a backend. For other related services, Apache authentication on any port 18 or 4043, and other services. There are a bunch of services, and you can enable any of them. So let's go to our jail options. There's a filter. You can use the name of the filter that you want to match. There's a log files, log path, which specify your files, maximum retry, the number of matches, and it triggers with the ban action on the IP, the find time and ban time, and which we discussed. And there's a port. It's comma separated. You can use numbers or SMTP for 25 or SSHD for 22 if it's default. And we talk about backend in order to get files modifications, and action in order to ban the IP and ignore IP. For example, you just want to ban IP that are external because if you reach the maximum retry, you will be banned and nobody can get into the server until the ban time get expired. So it's a good option, and I recommend you to do to specify this. There is another section, and you should work with filters. There are directory for filters, as you can see. It's out filter.d, and there are different filters for different services. For example, for Apache, for Courier, SSH, and MongoDB, or other related services. They are all set, and you can use them in your jail file, or you can write a new one. But let's see one of them. For example, sshd.conf. It's like this, and there are different patterns with different regex. There is authentication with A, capital A or not, and after that it should be matched with failure or error or failed for some user from host. And we should always specify the host in our regex. And if one of these lines match with our one log in our log files in SSH, fail2ban remember it till reach the maximum retry, and then ban the IP address. Okay, let's go with filters. A fail regex can have multiple lines, and any of which may match a line of the log file. And there's a tool we can use to test our fail regex, and we will get it later. As we said, we should specify the host, which matches either a host name or an IPv4 addresses, and possibly IPv6. And in the action script, the tag IP will be replaced by the IP address of the host that was matched in the host tag. And if the fail regex is anchored with a leading caret, then the anchor refers to the start of the remainder of the line after the time stamp and intervening white space. Let's see this in our log file. For example, messages. Let's tail it. As you can see, there's a timestamp, and that caret referred to it. So there are different samples, but I want to show you two of them. That one of them is related to SSH. This is the fail regex authentication failure for anything from host. As you can see, it doesn't match, but in this line, failed password for anything that's not important from host, failed password for anything the user is not important from this host, or root login refused, or other things. Or in the other example, which I had an open VPN. I just wanted to ban IPs or hosts which had TLS handshake failed. So I wrote this fail regex. As you can see, there is a caret for timestamp and our host name, our services, and our host IP addresses, and the port is not really important. And after that, there's a TLS error and a TLS handshake fail, and it matched with this line. Okay, let's do an example with SSH. It's simple and easy, and also it's really important for our servers to be protected from brute force attacks. We have installed our fail2ban, and we want to first of all create a jail for SSH and then test it. For this, we go to jail.conf, and we want to comment some or all of our jail, which the number line is 8. Okay, 8 3s, and we want to just comment them, all of them, and we save, and we wrote our jail. For that, we create a jail.local, and there is a default section that we can specify our ban action. It's IP tables dash multi-port, and we can specify our jail for SSHD. As we said, we should first of all enable it. Let's see what's happening. Enable true, and specify the port, for example SSH 22 or other things, and log path that will be monitored and match with our filters, which is in log secure log path. And then we can specify maximum retry just 1, and ban time for 600 seconds. Okay, that's ready. And I just want to restart fail2ban service and check if it's okay. It's okay and it's running. As we said, there is a command fail2ban client, and with its status we can see our jails, which is just SSHD, or we can details of SSHD. We can see our filter is currently failed or not, a total fail, and which file is being watched. And there are actions, currently banned, total ban, and a banned IP list. We can see here. So in this case, if we SSH to this server and we use incorrect password, we fail, and then because we reached our failure. The server failed to ban us with IP tables. Let's watch it. I've tried several times, so I don't input any password. It's just blank, and if I try again, there is a connection refused on port 22, and let's see our jail status, and we can see there are total failed, which is 2, and our banned IP list is here. If we want, we can unban our IP or -- all, and you can see there were 1, and if we check again, there is no ban IP, and we can password and login, or if we input the incorrect password, we will be banned again, as you can see here. And in your IP tables, you can see there is a chain for fail to ban SSHD. It's per jail, and the source is this, and the action is reject, and the message reject is ICMP port unreachable. So that's it. That's fail to ban, and you know how it works. You can configure it for different services you have for postfix. There are different samples in filter.d for sending mail, for SQL, STunnel, or other famous services you have, PHP MyAdmin, and it's really good. I recommend that use fail2ban on your servers in order to protect against brute force attacks or malicious signs or other things. So I hope you enjoy